So I'm sitting here with Alan at the Walk Through Time Museum, and I just want to start, Alan, before, this is kind of a little housekeeping for Maritime Museums. Important thing, Mom, I know you're watching, I am going to get a haircut before we finish filming the season. This is my COVID haircut, and I swear I'll get this chopped off before episode 13 starts, but still in hippie mode today. We are in what I think, I don't want to offend all the other museums I've been to, which are all cool in their own way. But I grew up drinking this stuff and eating this stuff. So we were in maybe the coolest room, or the mooest room, that I've ever been in. But all of this is related to Scotsburn and what Scotsburn is probably most known for, besides being a lovely community full of lovely people. But it's known for this
milk.
name. Yeah, you can walk through any supermarket and still see it. So tell me a bit about the community, the milk, and the museum, and how they all tie together, how you got involved with this, how the museum was created, and frankly, where all this stuff and all the other stuff that we are going to see, because folks, this place is huge, where it all came from, how it all came about.
Well, I was always interested in old antiques since the age of 12. I collected and collected and collected, a little piece at a time, stored them in my father's barn, my neighbor's barn, and just kept stockpiling them. In 2012, we had a walk-through time opening for our church, and we had it on display. And that one day from 10 to 4, I'm not just sure how many people we put through, but raised $1,700 and some odd dollars for the church and donated that back to the church. And after that, I decided my building at home wasn't big enough for my museum. Mm-hmm. So I kept looking around. This building here was vacant. And we purchased a couple years later, and here we are today.
If anyone who is from Nova Scotia was to walk into this room, they would look around and they would immediately be drawn to something different than I would, because there's so many different things that might resonate with your memory. And I'll talk about one that our sound guy, Brad, pointed out in a second. But this is, there we go, Blue Nose ice cream. Now, folks at home, there you go, sort of like on The Price is Right. I'm a vanilla guy. That's metaphorical and figurative. So, the sort of more esoteric flavors like chocolate don't really do it for me. So I picked vanilla. Now, this is, where was it here? These are co-ops. So you would see things on the boxes. It would say, like, the Sydney Dairy Co-op, I think, is somewhere around here. And were these cooperative ventures, the dairies? Like, how did the whole system work? Because you have some boxes here from Sydney, then Antigonish, and kind of all throughout this region of the province.
Well, Scotsburn Co-op owned like Truro Dairy, Antigonish Dairy, Tattamagush Dairy,
right.
Sydney Dairy, but they run underneath their own label as far as I understood.
Right, well, would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't just located in Scotsburn, it was actually quite a big enterprise running throughout the north and the east of the province. I have to actually draw the map in my mind.
I believe anything in this room, in these boxes, co-op made for somebody.
Right. Okay. So we have, this one looks rather plain, although it's got Blue Nose on it. So there we go. Now we're going to move into some of the more interesting ones. We've had a little debate before we started the interview. It wasn't really a debate. They have the right answer, but I have my own answer. So we have, and I definitely remember this from my childhood, the boxes with the cows on them. Lovely lady cow. There she is. And I want to call her Mrs. Moo, because that just seems, like she seems like a Mrs. Moo to me. I'd deliver papers to her house and she'd tip me or something every week. But the cow's actual name is?
Daisy.
Daisy. So Daisy Moo, I suspect, is her name. And this is, for my American friends, English and en français. This is how I learned to speak French as a kid, by reading milk cartons, really. So we have chocolate milk, which frightens me because it's not vanilla, from Daisy. Now this is just, she's here too. What does that say? Let's move on safety. So hey kids, add mall to your collection. Malls are big and busy. I don't know what that means. Oh, if you get lost, stay put with your mom and dad. So if you were in a shopping mall or something like that as a kid, and you didn't know what to do if you couldn't find your mom and dad, head to the dairy section. Daisy has helpful advice on what to do. See little kids rifling through the milk. What do I do? What do I do? Daisy knows. So this is just good old 2% milk, which is what I used to drink before I moved to skim, as I have moved further and further away from homogenized. But these are two of my favorites. So this one, Modern City, there we go, I had the French side. Modern City homogenized milk. So this is the pure stuff. This is like pure homogenized milk. So you've got your, I don't know what his name is, Bob, probably. But you know, that the days of milkmen, where guys, and they, as far as I know, they were all guys, would bring the milk to your house, which I can actually still remember. I'm old enough to be able to remember when the milkman would deliver milk to your house. Those days are long gone, right?
Yeah. They used to do it in Scotsburn. They used to come like one day a week, be on a Thursday or a Friday, and that's the only day. And then they end up having only 7 or 8 customers, and they pretty well shut it off.
That was time to, Now even the post office, you go to the mailbox at the end of the street, they don't drop it off. But they would have the little carton and the milk, some bottles, and then eventually even these things. A milkman. We don't really have them anymore. And now, two of my favorites, as I create a mess. So this one is, I think, the best flavor name ever created, because it's got Daisy, or Mrs. Moo, and Utterly Divine. Now, I have no idea what's in Utterly Divine. I just like Utterly Divine because the cow with the udders, of course. So somebody was very clever when they came up with this. Oh, now I know I like it. How's this sound, Alan? Clouds of creamy vanilla ice cream with swirls of chewy fudge chocolate surrounding scrumptious peanut butter-filled chocolate cups. It's enough to take you away. Yes. I know where Daisy's taking you after you eat this, right to the emergency room. That's where it's like, oh no, I can't breathe, but it was so good and tasty. And last but not least, and I don't know if this one is from Scotsburn, because you have another wall over here that has like fudgy wudgies and all sorts of, like Oreo. I'm pretty sure Oreo's wasn't made here.
No.
The Pac-Man ice cream, these are more sort of just things from away that you might have found in the same freezer that you would have seen these at in the store.
Yeah.
But I began my career doing films, a couple documentaries about unidentified flying objects. True story. I don't like to admit that anymore to friends, but here we are. So UFOs popsicles, which I don't actually remember, but I really wish I could have had some of these as kids. So I don't think those are local. No, these are out of Ontario. But still, these are the kinds of things that you can still see, different versions, to try and entice children to buy this sort of stuff. I'm just looking, like, there's Daisy. It looks like on a T-shirt. I'm obsessed with Daisy. I wonder if she's single. Wait, no, sorry, I'm married. Okay, to my wife. I'm definitely not dating Daisy the cow. Although, come on, she's got Utterly Divine ice cream. I mean, that's a deal sealer right there for me if I was still single. This, I'll do my little swan move. This is, we call it, as I sort of swan around right into, way too close. Maybe I should just, look at that, I'm gonna swan back over here. I don't know. We're just winging it, folks. Sorry, I just always like that. I know there's music that's coming through the break, so that's me humming. We're back, folks, and we're in the Walk Through Time Museum. We are in. Now, I don't mean any offense. I've used this term in many museums because if you're in the Maritimes, you're going to see museums that have a lot of exhibits about farm implements and the tools of the trade that people would have used. I call them rooms of death because when I look at a wall like this, I'm easily frightened, Alan. That's an important thing to know. I don't do well with sharp implements, knives, axes, or any of this stuff, really. But tell me a bit about the room of axes and saws. Let's call it the room of axes.
These axes here are called broad axes.
Broad axes.
Broad axes were used to use a beam like this here back in the olden days.
Right.
You took the axe between your legs and you used this beam. That's before the sawmills ever got started. So you chop here, and you made the beams with the broad axes.
Okay.
Then the slicks were made for cutting out
bits,
morses and stuff like that in the machinery.
Okay.
This old gentleman here was the guy that designed the broad axes. It was in Alma, Nova Scotia. The name was Connolly Axes.
Oh, okay. So he would be his son, so it was a family business.
Family business. This son here worked in the coal mine in Thorburn.
Right, okay. Now this We had these on my house when we were growing up, and I thought it made us the coolest house in the entire neighborhood because we had lightning rods on our house, which was awesome. But this is even cooler. We had lightning rods. What we didn't have was the space bubble up here. So before we started rolling, we sometimes chat, folks. I already know the answer to this because Alan told me, but I'd like him to tell you, what is this sort of white bubbly thing up here doing on the lightning rod?
We always thought them balls were for style. They're probably for style, but if the ball is broken in a lightning storm, it means that your ground on your house was bad. And if that happens, you should check the ground in your house and wonder why that ball blew in a lightning storm.
Right.
And it's a very important thing because if the wires don't go to the ground, chances are it can destroy your house.
Right, and it's interesting. You have a nice sort of explanation here. I'm one of those people when it says many people believe that lightning rods attract the lightning. They don't. They just provide, it's going to hit your house regardless, but it gives it a low resistance.
Goes right to the ground.
Right. So as opposed to, zapping your house and blowing it up or something. So if this was broken, that meant trouble beyond just getting.
Yeah, you should check out and see what the cause was.
Now I've never had kids, but if I did, my wife and I had kids. This, I'll do my little swan move. This is, we call it, as I sort of swan around right into, way too close. Maybe I should just, look at that, I'm gonna swan back over here. I don't know. We're just winging it, folks. This is the crib of doom. This is like something out of Game of Thrones. This is the crib of thrones. Oh, Alan doesn't like the way the interview's going. This is, so why? First of all, it's a cute crib. I like the little cat there, that's nice. But why are the axes in the crib? Why have we created this nightmarish sort of, but actually also very cool looking contraption?
In our museum, in axes, we have 120 axes in our collection. I'm running out of space, so I decided to take this baby crib and turn it into an axe display. Particularly this little gentleman here, at the age of 6, this was a double-bitted axe. He's from North River in Truro, and he got the axe at the age of 6. He said when he's 9 years old, they're allowed to take the 22s to school to hunt rabbits. You imagine doing that today in school.
No.
And the boys...
Not without the police showing up really
the boys,
quickly.
he said you hung your coats in the closet, put your 22s behind your coats. After school, you went hunting rabbits. This gentleman has a daughter, and he wanted to donate this to the museum, so this is one of my collections here, and this is made in a blacksmith shop in Tattamagush, so this is a cool little axe.
Yeah, actually. I mean, I do kind of joke about being afraid of these things. I have used axes before, mostly successfully. That actually is kind of a cool little axe. There's hatchets here, which when I was in Boy Scouts, you'd go out hiking in the woods and camping. You always had a hatchet to take with you, so, small little axes.
In my collection, we do have an official Boy Scout axe. It's down in one of our displays down here.
There's an official Boy Scout axe?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know. We just took random hatchets from Canadian Tire, but so that's good to know. Now, okay. I'm okay with axes, and I'm okay with even the crib of thrones here, which is actually pretty cool. This is neat. I'm thinking I should get this for my living room. Do something like that. My wife will love it. But you have a wall of chainsaws. Now, I'm joking about axes. I have used axes. Chainsaws really do frighten me. My dad used to have one. I would stand 50 feet away if he was using it because I always had these visions of the chain flying off or, just doesn't matter what my visions were. Those are my issues. But you have this wall of chainsaws and a couple hanging from the ceiling over there too. Talk to me a bit about the role that chainsaws played in sort of society up here and where did all these come from? It's donated, I assume.
A lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, chainsaws, back in the old days, they're that heavy, they just cut the tree off of the chainsaw, they limbed it with the axe.
Right.
Then they chunked the chainsaw up, or the log up with the chainsaw after the fact, because the chainsaw was just too heavy to limb.
Right.
So the chainsaws were a big thing. They took over from the crosscut saws. The crosscut saws, like you see up overhead here.
So, would that be two guys sort of working it,
Yeah, the crosscut saws are two guys, yeah.
Yeah. So one guy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, this would be an incredible advance. I imagine if you're the crosscut saw guy or the guy who owns the company that's cutting the trees down or whatever, you'd go, you know what? Instead of you two guys working on one tree, I'll give each of you a chainsaw and you can go double the work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They usually call it choppers in the woods. One guy cut down the tree, and the other guy's the limit. And most of the people back then would use a double-bladed axe to chop down the tree. One axe would be sharp as a razor, the other would be blunt. But a real good chopper would have a double-bladed axe.
Oh, really? So they would have a blunt edge and a
Yeah.
I would just always assume both edges would be really sharp.
No, depending on the stick, the limb you're cutting, one would do a better job than the other. I'm not sure which one would do what.
Right.
But that's how the old people tell me the story. So.
You wouldn't want to test.
Nope.
Which one is the sharp end? Ow, that one. Medic. Look, the inside is cool too.
Yeah, like the pop cans and stuff are twice the thickness this would be today. Just feel that.
Oh,
one.
wow. Holy cow.
And I was telling people when we were kids, we used to use the piggy banks.
Okay, so this is a fridge. Now, folks at home, you're going to go, fridges, everybody has a fridge, not terribly interesting, boring. I don't know, actually, it's a fridge, right?
Exactly.
Oh, thank God. But look at, like our fridge is nice. It's a white, my wife and I have a nice white box fridge, and it's very modern and all sorts of stuff. But this has style. They actually had sort of an Art Deco. They put attention and detail into how they designed the exterior too.
In the fridge is probably not what you would find in the old days, but we find it pretty cool. It's in this fridge.
Oh, look, the inside is cool too.
Yeah, like the pop cans and stuff are twice the thickness this would be today. Just feel that.
Oh,
one.
wow. Holy cow.
And I was telling people when we were kids, we used to use the piggy banks.
Yes, I do remember that. Not cans this thick though. Like this is,
Awesome.
that is actually really, you could, well, you're not going to do any damage if you hit anyone with it, but that is twice as thick. You're quite, and plus, look at that, the old sort of logoing that you don't have anymore. It's shinier. This is where I go, everything was better back then, which isn't necessarily true because they didn't have air conditioning. But yeah, you just sort of see like the old beer bottles and
That's just
stuff.
some of the old pop bottle stuff you're not going to see today. Like they're pretty cool.
McLean's, I don't even know what that is. I guess it's an old brand. Oh, it's from New Glasgow.
Yeah.
Huh.
We have like the Mountain Dew and 7-Up bottles are
Right.
getting to be quite a collection.
So this one, do you remember McLean's?
No.
See, yeah, this is definitely, but it was Bottle for Your Enjoyment by McLean's Beverages in New Glasgow. And then the crown tells the flavor. I don't even know what that means, but it's kind of a cool slogan and spelt with the U, as we do in the British Empire, to my American friends. Rebels, as we call them still. So, okay, I'll give you that back. What I like about fridges like this is butter, cheese. Now, in my fridge, my wife would go, yeah, Paul just throws stuff in, pell-mell, and then he's like, where is everything?
Exactly.
Really, my fridge is a mess. And this would make it much easier for me because I just go, okay, the butter's going to go in here. And my mom actually had a fridge that had those kinds of things. This is where the butter goes, cheese and everything. This is a very well, I'm not faking it, folks. I actually find this fascinating. This would be a great little fridge to have if you had a man cave now. This is the kind of stuff that, guys would say, yeah, I want to put one of these in my living room or something, because it just has a design element to it. It looks nice. Back when people put some effort into creating a design that was interesting as opposed to just these utilitarian sort of boxes that we get now. Oh, yeah. So we were talking about this earlier, folks, and Alan said, do you want me to stand in there? And I was like, no, I don't want anyone to stand in there. This looks terrifying. So what is the Reaper?
The Reaper is designed to cut grain, oats, and barley, and then just cut it. The pedals come down, push it off, put it in a straight row. And this is took over from the scythe or sickle back years ago.
Ah, right. People would like, holy cow. I think there's scythes here too, aren't there?
All kinds
I'm
of
looking at the, great. So, welcome to the 9 levels of hell. Here are our scythes that death uses. So they would go from doing this, which even if I studied history, obviously, that's why I'm hosting the show, folks. You can see pictures of, say, Russia in the time of the Tsars, and you'd see them out doing the fields with the scythes, hundreds of people. So they would move from that to this. This was the step up from that?
Yeah, this was the Cadillac back then.
Oh, this was the Cadillac of reapers.
Yeah.
So would it be horse-drawn?
Horse-drawn, yeah.
So the horse would be up there?
2 horses would be over here.
Over there, okay.
You sit in the seat over there to operate it.
Holy moly, that seems awful close to these whirring dervishes.
Well, the whole idea was that you had to be a short man or lean your head out because these pedals come right down by you when they traveled.
Yeah, it's like if somebody yells from behind you, "Hey, Paul, what?" Oh, you gotta concentrate, folks. You have to concentrate. So, okay, he'd be sitting there, and it would take it up in through here.
Take it off and sweep it off on the field in a straight row.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, you know what? I feel better now. Having walked through with you, Alan, you have convinced me that all of these things here are useful, and well, I already knew that, and that people relied on them, and they were great things to have, but they're nothing to be afraid of if you knew what you were doing.
The whole idea of farm machinery, everything is danger, you have to respect it.
Right, exactly. Respect it, but don't be afraid of it.
Exactly.
But you have to have a healthy respect for it. You have to know what you're doing, too. Unlike your average television host, where I just really have to talk. That's my job description. So, okay, I think the takeaway from this for me, and thank you very much, Alan, for the hospitality and for the tour, I would say to everyone watching 2 things. 1, come to Scotsburn, Nova Scotia, to the Walk Through Time Museum. This is the best word we were talking about this. How would you describe the museum? And I would say eclectic. And I mean that in the best way. There is a bit of everything here and I'm looking at some scythes right now. Still a little frightened of those, but this is the history of Nova Scotia, rural Nova Scotia, all in one place, really. And through generations of generations, and you can see how people would move from scythes to the reaper and how they would pass down the knowledge of how to use these things to their children and grandchildren and how it would continue on like that. So that's the first thing I learned. This is a museum you want to come to, folks, and spend a fair bit of time picking out and taking a look. And you guys are here to talk to folks and answer questions.
Yeah, we have volunteers here. We run it from 10 o'clock in the morning to 5 every day, weekends, holidays included.
Wow.
And the wife and I run it on the weekends ourselves, and we have a great bunch of volunteers that dedicate the time to us.
Oh, well, see, that's volunteer-driven museums, too, and communities like this are just the backbone of the museum system in Nova Scotia. So this is a great museum. I encourage everybody to come down and learn about our past and to not be frightened of it. The lesson I have learned, don't fear the reaper. On Maritime Museums, Will Farrell, that one's for you.